welcome to episode 092 of the Bit Beacon Broadcast. It's August 6, 2025. You can call me Kodax, and I'll be your host through this week's episode. So what are we buying? What are we playing? I haven't really bought or received, or no new video games have arrived. So I've been keeping busy with Genshin Impact's version 5.8 update. There are two main parts to this update. First, a new resort-themed story and another critical story path that leads directly into the upcoming major version change in mid-September. Instead of this update being this new version change being called 6.0, Genshin Impact will be doing away with numbered revisions and instead giving these new major upgrades with new regions a title. So instead, the upcoming version will be titled Song of the Welkin Moon. Which is, some lore-related thing I guess we'll learn more about. The update in September is being highly anticipated after the developers have hyped up this new chapter as a way to connect the loose threads that they've been building on over the last 5 years. This current version update is a sort of pit stop before the main course arrives, but I'm really enjoying my time with the island vibes and incredible music we have right now. As far as the open world exploration goes, Genshin Impact is almost unmatched in that category as far as I'm concerned. So what's been going on? I got back from San Diego Comic-Con, I guess a week and a half ago at this point. Apologies for no episode last week, and apologies for the delay on getting this week's episode out. But it was a pretty great show for me overall. After grabbing lunch with old friends on Wednesday afternoon, I made my way down to the convention center for what they call preview night on Wednesday evening. My priority for the evening was heading over to the Pokemon booth to try out their Mega Evolution experience. Just like last year, Pokemon was a little bit late opening their booth, and we had to wait a bit for them to finish setting up. The booth experience was pretty neat though, with you stepping in to pick your Mega Evolve partner Pokemon. A special card was then printed out at the station with think of a hotel, a thick hotel kind of key card. And it had a really nice kind of foil shiny back. And then on the front side, it had your trainer name and your partner Pokemon printed on it. There were also these sort of empty slots on the card, which we would use later going through the experience. You also got your own Mega Evolution wristband, but it was one of those cheap slap bracelets. It's long and rigid, and then you slap it on your wrist, and then it kind of folds around your arm. One of those, but it has the Mega Evolution bracelet sort of printed on it. As you go from point to point in the booth, you complete some small activities and get stickers to place on your card, hence those circles on the back of the card. The experience wraps up with a neat Mega Evolution activation video that you film. You kind of get to do a crazy silly pose, and then you tap the wristband, and then it activates a cool sort of special effect to play out on the screen, and then they email you the video. Mine's pretty fun. If you ever see me in person, I'll be glad to share it with you, but I don't think I'll be posting it online. So the experience wraps up with that video, and like I said, I really lean into the silliness there. On my way out of the booth, I got a nice double-sided kind of poster print. I think it was 11 by 17 or so, featuring on one side key art from Pokemon Legends ZA, the upcoming game, and then on the other side it had, I don't know, maybe a dozen or so new artworks for Mega Evolve Pokemon that they've been using on social media and various places to kind of promote the upcoming game. That night, a friend of mine convinced me to camp out in front of the convention center. Or I guess I should say we sort of convinced each other to camp out, so we could get tickets for the Avatar The Last Airbender 20th anniversary signing happening the next day. The night was absolutely miserable, with drunk people talking all night and freight trains out of hell waking me up. I did not come prepared to sleep out. I had no sleeping bag. I didn't have a thick jacket. I didn't have thick pants. So, by 2 a.m., we're 150 feet from the water, the ocean, and that breeze is coming in, and it's so cold. I maybe got a total of 90 minutes of sleep that whole entire night, and we got in line at 8 a.m., and we weren't able to grab the tickets until the next morning around 9:15 or so. But in the end, it was worth it. We got our tickets and later got into the signing, and it was a great experience. The entire main cast was there from the original series, and both of the two original co-creators were there as well. On Friday, I arrived at the convention center to secure wristbands for the creator of The Last of Us, Neil Druckmann, signing at the Dark Horse booth. I also went over to the Marvel Rivals activation over at the Marriott to get a poster from them signed by the art team for the game, which was pretty cool that they actually brought them over from China. Later in the day, I attended the Mega 64 panel, maybe the only group of YouTubers who I actually give a damn about. Their skits still crack me up, more than a decade on at this point. They were really entertaining as always. Saturday was a little bit more chill. Aside from the Neil Druckmann signing, I went to a panel for horror host Sven Gulli, and eventually attended the annual Masquerade costume contest, which is always a good time, and it was neat to see some cool video game representation in the contest. There was one particular group that had, they did this really cool Final Fantasy, I don't know if you really call it a skit, but they do a little performance, I guess, with their 1 or 2 minutes they have, and they had someone in cosplay for every single one of the protagonist characters from all of the games. So that was really neat, including X2, and even Remake and stuff like that. On Sunday, I attended a celebratory panel for the original PC game mega hit, Heroes of Might and Magic. They shared a lot of behind-the-scenes photos and stories of the development of the games, and later they did a signing at the Dark Horse booth. Those are most of the highlights for the show this year. Like I guessed, it was kind of a chill one for me, beyond, the whole camping out for Avatar: The Last Airbender. So last week, upon my return home, Nintendo announced a Nintendo Direct, but not a normal Nintendo Direct. They call these ones Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase. These partner showcases we've talked about before, but primarily there's not much, if any, Nintendo first-party content. It's all focused on, third-party partners such as Capcom, Ubisoft, EA, and, Square Enix, and some smaller publishers as well. But basically it's for them to, announce some new games that are coming to Nintendo hardware. So I don't have detailed notes for this, but I just kind of wanted to run past a few of the announcements that were of particular interest to me. So first off, Monster Hunter Stories 3, Twisted Reflection. You may recall last year I played Monster Hunter Stories on PS5 via PS4 backwards compatibility, and that was originally a Nintendo 3DS game, and they recently started porting it elsewhere. I was a big fan of the game. I enjoyed it a lot. It's a single-player story RPG, kind of Pokemon-esque version of the Monster Hunter world, and I had a really good time with it. I got the sequel still waiting for me. I'm going to get to that this year. Well, I don't want to make any promises, but before Monster Hunter Stories 3 comes out, I'm going to get to that. But they announced Monster Hunter Stories 3, and this is a massive leveling up of Monster Hunter Stories. Like, the two original games were 3DS games, and they the ports very much look like it. It's kind of got a squished, chibi, kind of cutesy sort of look to the whole thing. But Monster Hunter Stories 3, Twisted Reflection, is going for, full-blown Monster Hunter-esque realism. Still a bit of style to it. It's not totally like Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Wilds, the main series games. But it is a massive leveling up in the graphics department. And it looks super serious and kind of crazy. The trailer was really, really good. Hooked me in really hard. Looks to be quite a large world with different areas to explore. I'm excited to check it out. Absolutely. It's coming to Nintendo Switch 2, PlayStation 5, Xbox, maybe I might have that one wrong, and definitely PC. Yeah, I just double checked. It is coming to Xbox as well. So after several years of getting remastered versions of Katamari Damacy games, we are, for the first time in more than a decade, I think, getting a brand new Katamari Damacy game. Now, you may remember this is sort of a viral game on the PlayStation 2, Katamari Damacy. You were this little kind of pill-headed shaped person, and you just were kind of rolling up the world with this sticky ball that just sort of got everything attached to it and would get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's kind of a cult game for sure. It's got a niche audience, but big enough that they're making a brand new game in the series, Once Upon a Katamari. They're bringing back a bunch of the composers for the previous games to make new tracks for this game. It looks like a really good time. I see a lot of Katamari Damacy fans online. Super excited, super happy to be finally getting fed, getting some new food, getting a new game. That's really exciting for them. This next game is not something I'm super into, but I recognize that it's kind of a significant title for a lot of people. Plants vs. Zombies is getting a HD sort of remake in the form of Plants vs. Zombies Replanted. This game is coming fairly soon to Nintendo Switch 2 on October 23rd. Here's the official synopsis from EA. Prepare your plants and protect your brains because Plants vs. Zombies Replanted is shuffling its way into Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo Switch, just Nintendo Switch as well, on October 23rd, featuring brand new local co-op and PvP play, modes, challenges, and more. It's kind of crazy to think that Plants vs. Zombies was like a massive hit game almost, 15 years ago, easily? So, exciting for fans who, they've been making new Plants vs. Zombie games off and on over the years, but never anything quite in the vein of the original. So it's cool to see, bringing back that classic style gameplay for the old fans and hopefully some new fans too. 2 or 3 years ago, I can't remember when exactly, Bandai Namco brought back an HD version of Pac-Man World, calling it Pac-Man World Repack. And so there's actually a second game in the series, and now Bandai Namco has announced that Pac-Man World Repack 2 is coming out. So if you're not familiar with Pac-Man World, they are basically the Pac-Man version of like 3D platformers. Not quite like Mario, but more like Spyro or Klonoa or Croc, those kinds of games. Very fun games. I know Ravenheart's a big fan. I wish he was here to gush about it. I personally have never played them. I'm interested. I love, classic kind of games like that. And I hear it's got some, extra features. Here's the official copy from Bandai Namco. Pac-Man World 2 returns, now modernized, enhanced, and upgraded. The ghosts have snuck into Pac Village and stolen the golden fruit, unwittingly freeing the all-powerful Ghost King Spooky. Now it's up to Pac-Man to venture across Pac-Land, retrieve the golden fruit, and put a stop to the dastardly Spooky once more. It includes modern graphics, expanded levels, including Pac Village, quality of life improvements, and voice acting. With Pac-Man 2 Repack Adventure is back on the menu. I think that's pretty cool that they're actually adding, new content to the game, expanding on some of the levels. That's not something you always kind of get. Maybe there was some unfinished content the development team originally wanted to include, but they weren't able to. And now here we go, 25 years later, they're able to finally deliver on what they always hoped they could do. Alright, you know how I said the partner showcases focus on third-party games, not first-party Nintendo games? Well, this is one of those partner showcases where they kind of made an exception. The game is not developed by Nintendo, it's developed by Koei Tecmo. We're talking about Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. So this is a new Zelda game set in between the events of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And they promise this time it's canon, it's true. These are the events that took place off screen between those two games. It's like I said, it's technically a Nintendo game, but technically being made by someone else, so I think that's why they justified putting it in here and not calling this a proper Nintendo Direct. This game comes out later this holiday season. They said there'll be more information in the coming months. We don't anticipate this being like a massive monster release. Obviously it's going to sell more than 1 million copies, no doubt. But there's a difference between the Warriors games and the proper Zelda team games themselves. Alright, I'm going to talk about 2 more games. These are both from Square Enix. I skipped over some of the other announcements just because, I'm not super passionate about them. But first I'm going to talk about The Adventures of Elliot, The Millennium Tales. This is a new game from Team Asano at Square Enix. It is a new game that's part of not part of, but it uses the HD 2D design philosophy that this team applies to a lot of their games. And this is like an action sort of classic style Zelda game. It's not turn based. It's, you got a world to explore, quests to take on, villages to go to, dungeons to do. But the protagonist, he's just a sword. He wields a sword, and he's just slashing around the environment, fighting random monsters and stuff that appear in the wild. So definitely a different take. It's the first time we've seen an HD 2D game in this kind of vein. We typically see either like a strategy or some kind of turn-based RPG style game. So they're branching out, trying some new stuff. I think that's pretty exciting. We've been getting a lot of the RPG stuff from them, so they wanted to, maybe flex that. But fear not, we are getting another HD 2D game from Team Asano and Square Enix, Octopath Traveler 0. So this is an interesting game because it's not it's weird. It's sort of a remake of a mobile game called Champions of the Continent. But it does have new content, and obviously it's not going to have the microtransactions or anything like that. They're reworking it, but the story from the mobile game Champions of the Continent is basically what's being included here in this game. And I presume, they'll expand upon that story. You can tell it a little differently, tell it maybe more correctly, rather than with all the mobile game hooks that you sort of have to have in a mobile game. Here, they're giving themselves an opportunity for a wider audience to experience it, because a lot of people are turned off by those free-to-play games, and I totally get it. You just want to buy something once and own it and play it. So that's all well and good, right? Here's the bad news, though. Almost all these games I talked about today, aside from the Hyrule Warriors, are all going to be Nintendo Switch 2 game key cards and not actual proper game card releases. It continues to just be incredibly disappointing that third-party publishers are cheapening out and not opting for the game cards, basically passing the cost of storage and onto the consumer. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And then you don't actually own the game anymore. It's just a bummer all around. I'm really disappointed in Nintendo that they haven't gotten the feedback yet. They haven't learned, oh my god, we got to make smaller game cards available, so that way these publishers will stop doing game key cards. Because you know where this is driving me? Almost every single one of these games is coming out on PlayStation or elsewhere. Sadly, I'm going to buy all of those games elsewhere where I can actually own the game on a physical disc or whatever. I want it on a real thing. I do not want a game key card. I don't know when Nintendo is going to get this through their head. Maybe soon, though, because this past week, I got an email from Nintendo asking me to fill out a survey. And it was asking me all about physical games, how to buy them, where do you buy digital games, well, how do you feel about games on game key cards and things like that. So I gave a whole bunch of feedback, and this survey actually kind of caught fire on social media. People shared the link elsewhere, and which I'm not sure was really a good idea, because I think each survey link is unique to the one person. So I think if someone else just takes the survey, I don't know if it just overwrites the previous survey or what. But yeah, hopefully they got a lot of feedback this past week, because game key cards are a mess and they're disappointing everyone. Alright, for our last story, we are going to be talking about some plagiarism. I know. What is this, grade school? You might think it was. So, Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, or TCG Pocket as it's known, is the bite-sized digital version of the Pokemon Trading Card game. It was rocked by accusations of plagiarized art this past week. The game launched a new card expansion called Wisdom of Sea and Sky, and in the set is a special immersive rare card of Ho-Oh, which was absolutely gorgeous and drawn by fan favorite artist Nanahara Shi. Well, it turns out that art wasn't completely original. Fan artist Lan Jiu made a post on X about how similar the art was to a piece he had posted on Twitter a few years earlier. The post caught fire on social media and was picked up by some news outlets, and the offending artist was all of a sudden a target for harassment and bullying by Pokemon fans. It took a few days of investigation work, but eventually the Pokemon Company issued a statement clarifying that they had incorrectly provided Nanahara Shi with the fan artwork as reference material for something the company thought was proprietary in-house artwork. As a result, they've pulled Nanahara Shi's incredible artwork from the game and replaced it with blank cards that say "New art coming soon," which is kind of hilarious looking if you look up a screenshot of it. The Pokemon trading card game team has promised to do better moving forward and is conducting a review of their assets to ensure that this doesn't happen again. A few days later, the Pokemon Company's Japanese Twitter account asked for users to stop harassing Nanahara Shi. Even after the admission from Pokemon, some fans are still upset that Nanahara would still effectively trace over the artwork and use that in the final product. It's disappointing to say the least. To me, the best case scenario would be if this fan artist would be given the opportunity to do the art for the offending card if they're interested. There has been no public apology issued to the fan artist, Lanjuju, I think they're Chinese or from Hong Kong or Taiwan, something like that. But hopefully they've been reached out to privately by the company. As of this moment, the fan artist now has their social media set to private. Anyways, this coming weekend, I've got a cool event at the Gallery Nucleus for Naughty Dog's 40th anniversary. And then next week, I will be at the Pokemon World Championships. So I'll have a new episode for you next week before Pokemon World Championships start. And then we'll have a big talk about what happened then. Hopefully, maybe I can get Ravenheart to join me since he will also be attending the World Championships. I'd love to have him here, harass him if you hear this and you want him to be on the show. And transmission